Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another stage of The Odd Tandem. We have a very special guest who had a very special 2024 season. She won Flèche Wallonne, she got married, she won the Tour de France Femmes. Yenzi, how awesome was it having Kasia Niewiadoma Phinney on the pod today?
It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, talking about her marriage, where they want to go and have their party. We talked about the Tour de France, how close it was. 4 seconds she won the Tour de France. She explained us the entire day she went through, the pain she went through. So it was absolutely fantastic talking to her.
And I've known Taylor Phinney for a long time. He is obviously a super fan and super supporter of Kasia. He is also responsible for doing our little diddly during the intro and the outro music. So it's just funny how kind of everything comes together. So relax, sit back, and enjoy the conversation today with Kasia. All right, everyone. Very, very special guest we have today on The Odd Tandem. The world knows her as Kasia Niewiadoma, but now it's Kasia Niewiadoma Phinney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wow. I tell you, I could not be happier. And we're talking about, we had you on an earlier podcast under a different name. And we asked Taylor when he was going to put a ring on it. And he did.
Yeah.
It seemed like you guys came back to America for a little bit of a training camp or a vacation, and you went back to Europe a married woman. Tell us about the whole process.
So much happened this year. So we got engaged last year, just after Tour de France, and then we kind of started planning the wedding, but I feel like none of us really knew what we wanted at the end, and like the whole planning, especially that weddings in Poland are huge. It's like a 2-day event, and it's a big thing. So in some ways I was like, damn, I don't know if I'm ready for such a massive planning, and then especially that this year has been already quite big. So all we knew is that we just wanted to be married and to kind of like move on in the relationship. So we decided to elope. We flew to Colorado, got married in Colorado mountains, and it was super easy and very unique and special for both of us. So now we kind of need to start playing the ceremony or the official part, but we're just happy with how everything went. It was very true to who we are. So and now I'm mature lady.
And you planning a second part of that wedding in Poland with your family side, or how is that gonna be played out?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm very indecisive person, because one day I wake up and I'm like, hey, we're getting married in Poland. And I like talk with Polish people, planning everything, organizing everything. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know, maybe it should be Spain or maybe Andorra, or like I just change locations all the time. And I don't know. I feel like we also were talking that because as an athletes, we are faced with so many different big events that having a big wedding is not something that we resonate with. So perhaps it's gonna, I don't know, but we also change our minds so often. So to be honest, none of us really know what are we gonna end up with. We kind of have a date for the official wedding, but nothing major is booked or planned.
Yeah, we got eloped, my wife and I eloped in 1998 after the Tour de France. And we went to Hawaii kind of on a vacation, and we just said, you know what? I don't have the energy to do all this planning stuff and look at the invite lists. So we eloped, and the funny thing was you have to have witnesses, right? Mm-hmm. So the witness was the photographer slash videographer.
Nice.
And then the ukulele player, because we were in Hawaii. So on our marriage certificate, there's the giant gentleman that was the ukulele player that was our So, it made things a little bit easier because, like you said, you have a busy schedule. I mean, you're a professional athlete. You have to train. You
Yeah,
have to recover. It's very, very difficult to take the time, especially during the season, to do it. So,
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Couldn't be happier. I mean, it's been a huge year for you. But before we get into all the nuts and bolts of the podcast, we have a couple quick fire questions for you. You ready for these?
Yeah, ready.
Okay.
Throw them at
So,
me.
favorite one-day race because you've won them both: Flèche Wallonne or Amstel Gold?
I think it's Strade Bianchi, but if I have to choose between both of them, I would say Amstel.
Okay, that's perfect for this next question then. Because you're reigning world gravel champion and reigning Tour de France Femmes champion, what's your favorite surface, gravel or road?
I'm diehard roadie, to be honest. I just love road riding. Gravel is something that um, gives like some sort of, I don't know, variety to my training schedule. But anytime I'm on the road, I'm like, oh yeah, finally, I'm back.
Okay, okay. So we know that your new husband is a man of many, many talents. He may, you know, I've known him a very, very long time. He is an amazing individual. So what is your favorite meal that Taylor cooks for you?
He actually just made pasta party for me. So, I mean, we call it pasta party. It's basically, it consists of a huge bowl filled with pasta and different flavors landing in there. But I had a big ride today, so he was on a dinner duty.
Okay. He is quite
He's the man. He's
the
the keeper.
supporter. Yeah, yeah. So last one. What is your preferred way of winning? By seconds or by minutes?
By 4 seconds. I think we were just saying after the race that I need to really embrace those 4 seconds and just kind of joke around about it. Or we actually also started merge called 4 seconds.
Hey, once we start with the 4 seconds now, that brings us straight back to another big part of your year, apart from the wedding. With these 4 seconds, the morning of the last stage, did you think you had enough time in your hands to play for the yellow jersey to keep it? Or you were like, oh, I don't know how is this gonna play out? They're gonna attack early or not? At the morning of the
Yeah.
stage, how did you feel about your advantage then?
To be honest, I think that throughout the whole tour, I wasn't really paying much attention to the time difference between me and other riders because just from the experience, I know that if I study the results after each stage, I somehow get too hard on myself or I get in some ways insecure. So what I usually do is just like focus on each stage personally, like what I could do best and like together with my team. So of course, reconning the final stage, I knew that it was going to be super hard and on Glandon and Alpe you can lose like 4 minutes easily. You know, it's such a long climbs that once your legs say no, it's like Adele, you know, bye bye. But I just knew in some ways having those two hard climbs make things easier because it's not that we finished the Tour de France in Liège where positioning is super important and like you're on those small roads and there are so many different factors that can affect your result. I knew that all I have to do is just do my best. And it was one option. There were no other options. I mean, of course, like backing up or slowing down could have been an option, but it would never cross my mind. So even on Glandon, when Jamie went, and I just like didn't feel great at that point. I felt like, okay, it's still long way to go, and I kind of carried on my pace, and yeah. But the morning before, I think also with the team, because I've been with my team for so many years that I feel very comfortable and I can be myself and they know how to support me and what to tell me to like keep me sane and not crazy. So that was helping because everyone just let me be who I wanted to be and no one was like, you got this or like whatever. It was just very chilled and they were like just before we started, they just told me, we believe in you. And I think I was kind of carrying that thought in my head for a long time.
Well, I know we're going to get back to that, but I want to kind of back up a little bit. You know, the preparation for the Olympics and then immediately after the Tour de France Femmes. How did you prepare? Because I mean, you're preparing a one-day, very, very important race,
Yeah.
and then a few days later, starting the biggest stage race on the women's World Tour calendar. What was your mindset going into the Olympics? Because I read some things that you were a little bit disappointed, and you know you had a
Yeah.
fire in your belly from stage one of the Tour de France that was very, very apparent to us super fans watching you. But what was your preparation leading up to the Olympics with the Tour de France, the Tour de France Femme, just a few days after?
Yeah, so to be honest, I was mainly focusing on Tour de France preparation just because I know that for me it's very easy to pick up on those like 30 seconds to 3 minutes efforts. I think that that's something that I have naturally. Like I need 1 or 2 sessions in all order to feel strong in that area and like feel sharp. But long climbs is still my weaker part and it's something that requires extra work. So with my coach, we were focusing for 4 weeks. I mean, actually, after Classic directly, just on the Tour de France, the last two stages especially. So then, like 2 weeks before Olympics, we kind of added some sharpeners. And after 2 sessions, as I said before, I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I got this. Like, I don't need to work too much on it. And also, when you race the whole spring, you naturally still have it in your body. And luckily, I wasn't injured or I didn't have any health problems beforehand. So I felt like I just was able to maintain all the work that I built up from January on in my body. So Olympics definitely was a big goal, and I felt strong coming from altitude. But then, like being stuck behind the crash and not making the move to bridge across earlier, but kind of like waiting. I think I just made mistake of like not lean, but like wanting others to do the work beforehand, so then I could use it and bridge across. But then like there were not that many others who wanted to bring the breakaway closer or the group that was there. So I just ended up racing to get back to the front instead of like racing for the medal. So that was very disappointing in a way that I felt that I couldn't get rewarded for all the hard work and all the sacrifice I was doing beforehand. And I know that I spent like months on altitude and then like you have this big goal and it doesn't go as you planned. So it's like, then I was like, what am I doing? Like, like spending so much time preparing for something and I cannot even get like slight reward. So on the other hand, it was nice to like get the tour started directly because that was a nice distraction from Olympic heartbreak, let's say.
In the Olympics, you realized your shape was actually better than your result, right?
Yeah.
What was your mindset going into the Tour de France? You said, hey, team, I am really good. I'm trying to win. Or you go, let's aim for a podium. What was your mindset going into the women's Tour de France?
I think from the moment I started preparing for Tour de France, I was saying loudly that I come to win this race, that I do all the work to win the race. Just because in the past I felt like I was kind of shying away from expressing what I really want because like that I would wanna avoid like this failure feeling afterwards or I don't know, like somehow protecting myself. And then this year I realized that the more I express what I want, the more faith there is also inside me and I can really grab it. So together with my team, we just knew that we're here to win the bike race. to win the biggest bike race in the world. And that thought or that statement wouldn't stress anyone out or wouldn't create any sort of tension or nervousness within us. Everyone was just like let's fucking do it. Like positive energy, but also very empowering, and everyone wanted to get it. So I think that just with my team over the last couple of years, we really created the atmosphere or the vibe that is helping, especially riders, to just be themselves and to express what they want and get the full backup and support for that.
Well, talk about support. Stage 5, you had it, Demi didn't. You know, you're
Yeah,
coming into the final 6 kilometers. That terrible crash happens. The race is full gas,
yeah,
and you have Chloe Dygart on the front, just absolutely drilling it. When you know what happened behind happened behind. That's bike racing,
yeah.
right? Was that planned that Chloe would take you into that final sector and drill it all the way to the finish to make sure that you were in good position, or was that lucky to avoid that crash?
So stage 5 was the only stage that we never reckoned. Like none of us had seen that, either writers or directors. It was like an unknown stage for us. So of course, with Bellaviewer, you can see that okay, there's a descent quite close to the final section and with some weird corners. So we gotta be in the front. I think that every single team is told to be in the front in sections like this. So it was chaotic just before we hit the descent, and I was so lucky actually having Soraya bringing Chloe and I to the front. She did it just in the last moment, and then we were sitting on the SD Works wheels. So I was like, okay, this is sweet. I see everything what's happening. Like, let's do it. And the last 1.7 Ks were uphill. So we knew that that would be like a chance for me to maybe gain some seconds. Like, I think that I feel confident saying that I'm better at the shorter, punchy stuff than Demi is. Demi is a better climber, long-term climber, let's say. So I was like, maybe I can like, I don't know, strip a couple seconds. So having Chloe there was a plan to like have there all the way until like whenever I was supposed to attack. But then of course, like we saw the group of only like I think 10 riders, and we also didn't have all of our teammates. So like she started to ride hard on the flats already. So I was like, okay, the moment she's tired, I just like go. And the first thought was like, we go for the sprint. And actually finishing second, I was like super disappointed because I thought that I almost had it. I didn't know that Blanca Vaz was there. And then I was like kind of angry. And then they tell me like, oh, we got in yellow. So that was like a nice roller coaster that it ended up with the reward.
Another question about that day. Were you aware or were you surprised by the tactics of Team SD Works? With, like you just said,
Yeah,
Vars going for the win. Lorena Wiebe sprinted for a top 10.
yeah,
At maybe not enough riders got called back to help Demi following to limit the loss. Were you surprised by
yeah.
that, or was it just chaos and chaotic and there was no radio connection there?
Yeah, it was definitely super chaotic. And I think that also a lot of riders were very tired because the stage was relentless. We were going up and down, and everyone tried to be in the breakaway. And the breakaway never went. So you know those stages where there are just attacks to go into breakaway, but always somebody brings it, and it's like a washing machine for 4.5 hours. So I do remember just like being, in these days of like, let's, okay, 5Ks to go, whatever, you just focus on the final. And it's so loud. And to be honest, I was unaware of anything that happened until like after the finish line when we actually saw some social media content and some videos because no one knew what was going on. And I don't know if even SD Works girls knew what was going on because it's also like it's not that you always have cars just behind you and the connection is amazing. So yeah, it was I think in the finals, especially when it's like up and down and lots of corners, it's hard to even like be so connected with what they tell you in the radio because you also focus not to crash or not to like do anything that would cost you time. So I can see them just like riding blindly at the end of the day. But then also, I don't know, like I know that when I crashed on the first stage, the girls waited for me directly and no one told like, hey, you have to wait for Kasia. Like they knew it too to wait for me. So I don't know if it comes with like how what is your relationship with the teammates or maybe there is something that we don't know about and probably we will never learn.
Thanks for telling our viewers and our listeners a little bit about the lack of radio contact sometimes. Like everyone just assumes because we see it on TV and we know what's going on that everybody in the peloton does. But like you said, if the car's not right behind you or
Yeah,
the battery in the thing is a little bit low, it's flying blind. But
yeah, especially I would say like I know that almost every single classic I finish last 20Ks without the radio just because Peloton consists of like 150 girls, and there are just groups everywhere. And it's not that the jury lets the car to like blast through all the groups and go to the front. So I feel like it's normal that you lose the connection. It's nothing unusual, special, and maybe yeah, indeed, people don't know about it.
okay, so I find myself in this situation quite often. Jens he wore the yellow jersey multiple times. Many of our guests do. So I'm always left out because I never wore the yellow jersey.
Oh no.
I want to hear about you getting up on the podium for the first time ever and putting on the most coveted jersey in cycling. What was that experience like?
To be honest, the first time wasn't as special as the following days, just because the circumstances, just because in some ways I felt like as if I did something to Jamie, so I took that, I don't know, as if I stole that jersey. Because this there was direct talk of like, oh, Jamie crashed and like nobody waited for her, and you hear it and you feel it everywhere. So like I definitely had a nice moment with my team, but they feel like it just felt a little odd in some ways. And then like the following days were like a full celebration.
But I mean, you just told us before you had a crash early in that race as well. So everybody goes through some bad luck, right? That is, I mean, Bobby and me, we
Oh
had
yeah,
crashes. That is just part of it, right? Fortunately, your crash
yeah,
wasn't too bad, right? On earlier in the race. But so
yeah.
there's no need to feel guilty. I just want to say that because everybody has a share of bad luck and good luck.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And this is part of racing. And I think if you crash, I mean, everyone reacts to crashes differently, and everyone crashes in a way that we cannot experience ourselves. So I don't know like what people feel, but like I know that my first instinct is to like quickly find my bike and go. Like you just want to ride, you don't want to stay. You just like feel like you gotta be moving. Sometimes I feel like I jump on the bike and I don't have a chain on, and then you have to like stop again and like fix your bike somehow. So yeah, like on the first stage, actually, there were so many crashes because we started in Rotterdam. That's where we lost our teammate, Ellie Shabi. And like crashing there wasn't ideal because the following day we had the double stage. So like waking up super early, then like getting on a TT bike, like I felt quite broken. But then luckily, like I kind of like was able to heal myself quite quick. So yeah, it all depends on the timing and like how you deal with it and how you move on.
Tell me a little bit more about that double stage because the only double stage that I remember doing as a pro was Criterium International. But
Mm.
we that was a very special day because it was the day that the daylight savings started. So we lost an hour. So we had to get up
Uh,
even earlier. And then Jens would normally crush everybody in the morning stage. And then the time trial was in the afternoon. And it was a 2-day, 3-stage race. And it was, Jensi, probably one of the most stressful races that we do all year because of that. And you ladies had a double day thrown in on stage, what, two and
Second.
second and third stage. So
Yeah.
a road stage and then a very short time trial in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
then you had six more road stages after that.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers and our listeners what it's like, or what you experienced and your team experienced during that uber stressful second day of the Tour de France.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that like a huge appreciation should go towards our staff members because mechanics had to deal. Okay, you have seven riders. We have two bikes each on the road, two bikes each on it for the time trial. So you have four bikes per rider that you have to take care of and you have to maintain and make sure that everything is working. So, and same physio, waking up extremely early just to prepare everything for us. Um, so I would say that for the rider is in some ways manageable because you just follow the schedule, but I don't think it's very fair for people who work around to make our lives easier. Because when I saw them just basically all out, full gas at tope from the start until the evening, and then it was just day two, then the bigger stages are coming. So, um, yeah, it wasn't, I don't know what was the idea behind it, but personally, I wasn't a biggest fan of it.
And I remember from the days with split days, your body really or your mind wants to go to sleep after the first stage,
Oh,
but you
yes.
cannot. You have to keep yourself somehow. You can go into some
Yeah.
meditation mode, but you're not allowed to sleep at all because then it would
Yeah.
take 5 hours to wake your body up again, right? And that's tricky. You
Yeah.
eat something and then your body goes, okay, this is my time to rest and to sleep. But you go, no, 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 you cannot go to sleep, right? Or
Yeah.
how was it for you?
Yeah, definitely. In some ways, call it we were lucky, but it was such a busy day for us moving from place to another, especially that we were changing hotels and there's like logistic of packing but still like coming back to a hotel to take a shower and like to get a lunch. So we ended up just being also in a rush for the whole day. Actually, I felt like the whole tour was like there was no time at all for yourself to kind of like sit down and chill a second. Because maybe because we started in Holland, so transfers were quite long, and then you arrive to the starting venue, and there's always more things to do before the tour. And then um, yeah, I felt like we were just in the move all the time. Then you get to the hotel and it's like quickly go get a massage, quickly go get a dinner, little team meeting, and then it's like 9:30. And what do? You just like quickly check your messages and you go to sleep.
Did you feel having the yellow jersey that you had a lot more responsibility after the race in terms of press conference and stuff? Because you're no stranger to being on the podium of the Tour de France Femmes. You've done it twice. But
Yeah,
what was that like? Because we rarely hear how much extra time and energy that takes from
yeah.
the yellow jersey wearers.
To be honest, that experience definitely made me think of Pogacar or any rider in a Grand Tour that has to do it for, like, say, let's say 2 weeks because they don't get the jersey straight away. But it's definitely our plus because it's podium, it's a doping control, it's live TV, and then it's a press conference. And it's not that you go to those, like, sometimes you have to wait for things. So you just end up, yeah, arriving hour to hour and a half after your teammates.
But with the yellow jersey on your shoulders, did you experience that the public recognizes you more, give you more support? Because from my experience, the fans are fairly fair. Whoever is in a yellow jersey, a French, an American, or a Polish rider, they give you full applause and respect. Was it the same in
Yeah,
your case?
yeah, it was definitely very nice experience, not only for myself but also for my whole team. It was really cool to see how that jersey awakens people. Like, I don't know, everyone was recognizing us and wishing us good luck and being our best friend. I definitely see why Tour de France is so special for a lot of riders. It's because you go through those experiences that basically never happen, you know? It's just very unique. And it's also very beautiful to feel that support coming from strangers, because it's not that these people know us, but they genuinely come out to just watch us race and they want to be friends in some way. So it was really nice because it's all sort of people, you know, starting from young girls to like older guys. Everyone is just there for one purpose, like the beauty of cycling. So that was really cool.
So over here in the States, we had to stream the coverage. And on stage 8, you know, you took the jersey in stage 5, defended it in 6 and 7. And stage 8, it was a little bit delayed. So we didn't get to watch anything until basically halfway up the Glendon. So I'm sitting
Okay.
there like excited as all get out. And halfway up the Glendon, everything's in order. I have 5, my wife and I have 5 rescue dogs, and they were ringing the doggy doorbells. So I had to take them outside. I walked around. I said, hey, you know, they've got, you know, 6 more K of the Glendon to go. It's all going to go down on the Alpe d'Huez. So I'm out there walking them around. They're taking their own sweet time. I come back in, and all of a sudden, I don't even know what I'm watching anymore because you're like 40 seconds away from Demi, and I just
Yeah.
left to walk my dogs like 10 minutes prior. I understand that you went through a little bit of a bad moment there, which all cyclists
Yeah.
do. But on the descent, in the yellow jersey, you're in a group of, you know, 5 or 6. Normally in that situation, every
Yeah.
other woman, every other person in that group would just point to you and say, it's your job. But you had some help from
Yeah.
Lucinda Brand, I think it was,
Yeah.
from Lidl Trek. And she did more than her fair share of work. Yes, she had a teammate. What I found interesting is she's also Dutch. And Demi, who was up the road, was Dutch. It didn't seem like you guys were talking, but that was probably the most valuable teammate or person you could have had in that group at that time.
Yeah.
Was that talked about, or was that just that tactic for Lidl Trek to get their climber a little bit closer before Alpe d'Huez just happened to help you?
Yeah, I think they had their own business because Gaia is of course known as a really good climber, and I think Alpe d'Huez suited her perfectly because it's steep and she's very small. So usually that's the climb where she makes difference. If it was like say 4 or 5% climb, then I guess it would be harder for her. So I think they had like a full belief in Gaia. But of course, that work was perfect for me. And we know each other very well and we like each other also. I think that what actually, I think that this whole tour was like a beautiful reward for all the years I was racing. Because even when I think about last year, Tourmalet, when I was out there in the valley on my own, Jamie had like 2 teammates helping her to bring the gap closer. They like closed me to 5 seconds at the end. And now I happen to have some not not teammates, but riders that were happy to rotate with me. And I just like thought that, you know, in some ways it's not like a life karma, but it was really nice to see certain moments that were just like falling perfectly into places. So I think it comes to just like being also, you know, if you like somebody, you don't mind working together, I think. Because, yeah, we had a good laughter after the finish line. Like the DS Trek sent me a message with his credit card number saying like you can transfer the money to this account. So that was really funny. Yeah.
And with being a bit behind Demi, did you feel the pressure to take more risk on the downhill, or you descended within your limits like always? Or you felt, I can gain 10 seconds extra here if I go down faster?
I definitely wasn't thinking about gaining some time on the descent just because anytime I would create a gap between Lucinda and Gaia, Lucinda would be waiting for Gaia, and I knew that I need Lucinda for that flat section. So I kind of like tried to stay with them. Um, yeah, that was, I was kind of, I don't know, to be honest, it was so weird, but the whole stage I felt calm. Definitely on Glandon, it's a long climb, it's like 18 Ks. I think that it's not, of course, all about it, but I think what I did wrongly on that climb was that I only had like a little bit of bottle. I didn't drink anything, and it's like almost an hour effort. So towards the end, I just felt like, when you go hard, but you feel like that pain lingers around. It's not that you go hard and you process the pain and it like kind of is there and you feel it, but it's like staying in your body and it builds up. So that's what I started to feel towards the end. And then Jamie attacked, and I was like, sweet, of course, she attacks now. So on the descent, I quickly like took whatever I had in my pockets. And as you descend from Glandon, halfway through, you have this very short, painful kicker. It's like 1K,
Oh,
10%.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember now. Oh,
right?
yeah,
I think
Yeah,
you're at the top, and then one more little
yeah.
kick in the
yeah.
guts.
So
Oh, yeah. Poof.
exactly.
Yeah.
So after like having some food at the top of London, I was like thinking about this kicker, and I was like, oh man, like it's gonna be the worst. But then I started it, and I'm like, yo, like this is good. Like I could just find my pace, find my rhythm, and then that was actually the moment where I was like, okay, like fuel as much as you can, and like anything is possible. That's when I actually started to think more focused and concentrated, and like the game isn't finished, because I felt like I was back. I wasn't this like slow and sluggish person on the bike, but I had my energy back.
But for us on TV, we had so much more information than you had. Um,
Yeah,
things were going back and forth, but it wasn't just Demi. It was Paulina Royackers who
yeah,
was with her that could also win the Tour de France Femmes if she
yeah,
won the sprint. I mean, it's two of the most dangerous ladies going up the road. You refill your belly, and basically it's an individual time trial up Alpe d'Huez, right?
yeah.
So, did you know the time gaps? And if you did, what was your pacing strategy for that? Because we were on pins and needles the whole entire time, and then, I took into account the time bonus sprints, and, I saw like right away, I said, she won it, but on TV, they weren't sure. And
Yeah.
what was going through your head, switchback after switchback, on that iconic climb, where one day, you just find yourself in this situation where you have to give everything for the yellow jersey. All the marbles are on in play here. What
Yeah.
was that all? What was? Take us through that whole.
To be honest, I started the climb because the first 2Ks are quite steep. It's like straight and steep. And I started it. I was like, I'm not looking at the power. I just like follow my feelings. And I like quickly glanced down, and I'm like, oh shit, like I have to do that for the whole climb. And then I was like, kind of like, oh no, like what did I put myself into? And then I was like, okay, no, just do it. And um, at some point, I got into this state where I knew that I just have no choice. Like, what can I do now? Either I stop and I quit, or I just like carry on this immensely difficult and uncomfortable pace that I just set. So there was like so much going on from the crowd and from my radio. So I was like, could you please stop talking to me? Like I needed some sort of silence. So the
Wow.
team gave me a moment where I could just, because like, when you train for the most part, like you hear nothing. It's a silence and you find your rhythm and you like feel your body. And I felt like I was needing it so much to just like be in silence for a second because it was so loud and chaotic and so much pain going through the body. And they stopped talking immediately. And then I was like, oh shit, like I actually need them. Like I need also some sort of guidance and timing. And then I was able to find my rhythm. And as I started to go further and further, and the guys realized that actually it's not the gap is growing, they were getting more and more excited and like giving me some sort of tips and pieces of advice. But to be honest, it's still hard, like crazy for me to even talk about this experience because it was such a crazy pain, and I think like all of us went through it in some ways because it's like you just know that you cannot back down, like you cannot slow down, you cannot do anything. So the only thing I was like kind of hoping to get is like some sort of drafting in the corners. Like sometimes before the corner, I would like want riders, Evita or Gaia, to go through, so I could get a little sort of recovery because every corner is like flattens out. But then actually Tay is always laughing at me like what I was doing, like flicking elbow on like a 10% gradient. Like it wasn't going to help at all. But yeah, it was insane suffering and so rewarding at the end. But zero, I didn't like set any sort of tactic. It was just like, let's see, like I have again no choice, just go as hard as I can, hoping that it was going to be finished as soon as possible.
Yenzi, sorry, a quick follow-up question. How long did you ask, or how long were you granted your moment of zen with silence?
Maybe for like for 3-4 Ks.
Okay, so a significant amount.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
all
it was
right.
perfect. Yeah, it was perfect.
And I guess you already answered my next question. If you would have lost the Tour de France with 4 seconds, would you find a place where you could have gone a little bit faster, or you were all the time perfectly at the max?
Yeah, I definitely know that on outdo it, it was all I had. It was maximum because it, like the last, especially 3Ks were so hard that where Evita attacked, it's like I had Tay and my friend David running next to me, and I didn't recognize them. Like I didn't see anything. And I remember this moment seeing Evita going, and in my head, directly, I'm like, no, like I'm not doing it. But somehow my body carried me on. So it was very interesting because normally I feel like body doesn't want to do it, but you like mentally force yourself to do something. And this time I just like kind of stood up and grinded my way back to her wheel. But I know like I was actually thinking because it's like very popular now, like how high cadence you can have going uphill. And that's something I struggle with. Like my cadence is never high. So I was like researching past winners and their cadences or their riding style. And of course, like I came across Pantani and the fact that he was like out of the saddle in the drops, like going uphill. So I was training before the Tour de France and I was like doing some efforts. And just when I was like getting super dead, I was like, let's try that Pantani thing. And I was like, actually, it's working for like 1 minute or 2 minutes. So I was just like grinding that, like trying to get some extra power.
So just to confirm something, Taylor, the love of your life, your lobster new husband, is gets into a van, drives all the way to watch you. He's running beside you, yelling, and you were so much in the zone that you didn't know he was there?
I didn't see him at all. And he was like right
Wow.
there. I could only see it in the TV. And he was
Oh, it was
wearing red
great.
shorts, like right there. Because then like I crossed the finish line and I'm like, where's Taylor? Where's Taylor? And then person from my team told me that yeah, he was like down the road standing cheering for you. So then I was like waiting for him and when we had time to chat about, he's like, yeah, we were running for like 20 seconds next to you.
It was one of the coolest images I've ever seen on TV. Knowing him as long as I have and being such a big fan of yours, that was it for me. I have to say I had a little teary eyed to say the least. But
Nice.
And coming into the last kilometer or 500 meters, when did you believe you have it? Or when did your car tell you, keep going and you're going to win the tour? Only after the line, or with 100 meters, 500 meters to go, or 1,000 meters to go? When did you believe, I'm gonna take it? Or was it only after you crashed after the finish
Yeah,
line and somebody told you actually you won the Tour de France?
yeah. To be honest, because of that crazy pain, when I finished the race, when I crossed the finish line, I was just so happy that it was over. Like I forgot that I was doing Tour de France. I was just like, yes, just like people just like go away, like create some space because I just wanted to breathe. It was like because all of a sudden everyone comes in, so I was just overwhelmed by that. And as I'm laying on the ground, then like I'm going back to planet Earth, and I'm like, oh, okay, like what actually is happening? And then Beth whispered to me, like, I think we have it. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden, just like this insane yelling in my ear, because the guys they got the confirmation in the radio. So I was like, what? Like, what are you saying? And they just like didn't say anything, but it was just like, whoa, like crazy yelling. So it was such a insane, let's say 1 minute of my life from like crossing the finish line, being extremely tired to like not knowing what was happening to then like having this hope that maybe actually we won and to realizing that yes, we won it and you share this ecstasy with so many people. Everyone is just like, shaking you and hugging you and it's really, really beautiful.
So you're now the Tour de France Femmes winner. You're going to be asked to do a lot of things. Your opinion is going to carry a lot of clout. The last two Tour de France winners were Dutch, and the Tour de France Femmes started in Holland. What do you think the chances are of the Tour de France Femmes now starting in Poland? And then, if what else would you like to see in the Tour de France Femmes in 2025 and then maybe forward? Because us guys, we
Yeah,
it's not for us to say, but I'm really interested to hear what
yeah.
the winner of this year would like to do or to say or to change.
To be honest, I definitely would like to see the tour growing in stages. I think already next year we have 9 stages. I don't want to say, or I don't think that 3 weeks tour is something that I would be super happy about, but like having something longer that would stand out, like say 2 weeks tour. Our longest tour was 10 days, Giro Rosa. So something bit longer and maybe that I mean the tour is super hard from day one, but I think it would be nice to um, race for a little longer. Not necessarily the stages don't have to be like this year 150, 160 Ks all the time, because I also believe that if it's a little shorter, it's more aggressive and actually it's harder when you have like 120, 130 Ks. Um, but to be honest, I really enjoy racing in France because um, it feels like okay, this is Tour de France when we're in France. I didn't feel like it was Tour de France when we were in Rotterdam. I felt like we were just like doing a big classic there or a big race. There is something special about the crowds in France that I really enjoy.
And what do you think the Tour de France is well balanced? There are stages for the sprinters, for the breakaways, for the climbers, or you would like it to have maybe a longer TT or a team time trial or more
Yeah.
or less mountains? What would if you could choose, what would you like? What would you like there?
To be honest, I really like the first edition because there were some gravel stages. There were some like stages for classic riders, some stages for pure sprinters, and of course the last 2 stages were for pure climbers. So I felt like it was very well balanced. Um, so I think that that was like a great example of what the tour could look like. For the next year, to be honest, in some ways, I hope for the TTT. I think that this discipline is so beautiful and somehow it's pushed away or less and less races when I put that into the schedule. Um, because it's like, I don't know, it allows you to suffer with your teammates and it also is more special when you win it. I think I know actually we won a team time trial together. And probably I would want to see more classic style stages with the shorter, punchy climbs. I always find it the most interesting, also for the rider, because sometimes on that, I mean, climbing stages are really good, but sometimes it's just like grinding, you know? You just like, you have to go your pace, hard pace all the time. And with the classic style racing, like what we had this year, finishing in Liège, there's so much more that comes into the final result, you know? Like even that positioning game and like knowing the course and knowing when you have to be in the front, when you can kind of like relax, it's more engaging.
Well, the Tour de France Femmes is in the rearview mirror, and as we know in cycling, it's like, what have you done for me lately, right?
Yeah.
I never won the Tour de France, so maybe it's a little different for you guys and gals. But what's next? What we got the World Championships in
Yeah.
Zurich, which is a great course. You said that Taylor made you a huge bowl of pasta, so you're out there training hard.
Yeah.
What's in store for you in the next coming months?
Yeah. So actually, like post-tour time was quite interesting in a way that I was immersed into doing a lot of social media things and like interviews and podcasts, and it was like an ongoing journey, and that really tired me out, and I felt like I just want to finish my season. I felt zero motivation going out for a bike ride, and then as I was going to Romandy race, I got COVID, and I was forced to take like 4 days off. And during that time, I was like, oh no, like I actually want to be riding my bike. Like I felt that something was taken away from me. So as normally I never want to get sick, this time I'm so thankful for being sick because that allowed me to like rebuild the real motivation because now I like today I went for 6.5 hours and I was stoked the whole time. I felt like okay, I can be riding again. So I think that's very important for me to feel the motivation because then I can put the work in, and that also allows me to like dream big about my goals. So definitely going to Zurich and seeing the course. Yeah, I wanna go there for that rainbow jersey. I know in some ways I like. It's not that maybe a dream, but I know that sometimes you need a bit of some sort of luck, and I'm like, oh, maybe Damien will focus on Lotte on Damien, and I will just like find my way out, to the finish line. But yeah, that's definitely a big goal because I feel like the year so far has been great. So why not to top it off with another jersey,
That sounds like a pretty fantastic plan. Any
right?
plans for next year's season? Will be the tour defending your title the biggest goal, or you go, oh no, I ticked this box. Now I'm gonna move on and try to win the Giro Rosa or the Vuelta España feminine.
Yeah.
Any plans like that? Or you go, it's too far away. I haven't thought about that.
To be honest, at first I was having that feeling. Then I'm like, okay, I don't wanna, I don't wanna aim again for the same race. I was like, oh, let's do Giro now. But as some time passed, and I was like, I got my desire back. I think that sometimes when you're tired and physically and mentally, then you don't really think clearly. But I think that when I think about 2025, the main goal is winning Strade Bianchi for now.
Well, Kasia, thank you so much for taking so much time and being so generous with it. We're giving you the good vibe voodoo because you said you were a little tired from all the social media stuff that you had to do, and now you're stoked to train, and we're stoked to watch you, and just it was fantastic season, fantastic Tour de France Femmes, and we wish you the best for the rest of the season and for the future. And thank you again for coming on the Odd Tandem.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the great chat.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. There'll be loads more content popping up here, including more great interviews with top guests like Kasia. Keep dropping your questions for us in the comments and check our description below to find us on social media and Patreon to support our channel.